All right, so I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right, so hello everyone, my name is Brianna Howard, and I decided to do my presentation on why the US should abolish the death penalty. Let's take a moment. Death. Death is petrifying, annihilating, and irreversible. So tell me, does killing someone sound good? No, killing is never right. So how can we support a system that does so? So here's a little bit of background information. Capital punishment was suspended in the United States in 1972 through 1976. Courts found that the death penalty was imposed on the grounds of the Eighth Amendment in the Constitution. The Eighth Amendment states excessive bail shall not required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. However, in the year of 1976, death penalty was reinstated by the US Supreme Court. Since then, 1,534 people have been executed as of June 2021, which is very recent, and 156 people have been exonerated. So where is capital punishment used? So in the graph, we see that it's heavily used in the southern states, such as Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, etc. So many people don't know what moratorium means, but it refers to the delay or temporary deferral of a law or an activity. It can be enforced by either a business or a government. A moratorium continues to be enforced until the issues causing its enforcement are solved. So let's take a look at the US versus the rest of the world. So since 1976, an average of 3 countries per year have abolished the death penalty. 75 countries have abolished the death penalty altogether because it came to terms it's cruel and unusual. Japan is the only industrial democracy besides the US that the death penalty continues. In Japan, executions are carried out by hangings. The majority of death penalties are only imposed by multiple murders. So in the United States, methods include lethal injection, electrocution, gas chambers, firing squad, and hangings. So the next slide is a little bit of a caution warning. So for those that are a little bit sensitive, I'm letting you know now. Okay, so in the top left corner, we have lethal injection being used. So typically 3 drugs are being used in this. So Pavilon is used to cause muscle paralysis and respiratory arrest. Potassium chloride is to stop the heart, and midazolam is for sedation. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have the electrocution chair, so which is used by killing someone by electric shock. The middle picture we have is a gas chamber, so it has poisonous hydrogen, cyanide, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide are all used during this procedure. And then the last 2 images are hanging and firing squad, and those are pretty self-explanatory. So a short story I found is in the early 1970s, Stanley Williams was a co-founder of a violent gang called the Crips, which is located in Los Angeles, California. He was sentenced to death in 1981 for the murders of 4 people during a robbery in 1979. In 1996, he co-authored Gangs and Wanting to Belong. He later wrote Life in Prison and Blue Rage, Black Redemption. He was also nominated for Nobel Peace Prize. Many notable leaders like Archbishop Desmond Tutu and other great leaders, such as Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, to spare his life, but Schwarzenegger refused. Williams was executed with the lethal injection and died on December 13, 2005. So is it really equal justice or social economic bias? So one of the most pivotal determinants of whether a defendant will receive the death penalty is the quality of the legal representation. So almost all death row prisoners cannot afford their own attorney. Appointed attorneys are often overworked, underpaid, or lack trial experience required for death penalty cases. With that being said, Black men currently hold the highest population by race in the United States, which is standing at 41%. So the opposing side may say, they did the crime, they do the time. It's cheaper to execute people. If someone murders someone else, they have given their human rights, including the one to stay alive. It brings closure to the victim's family. The punishment should fit the crime. So basically, if you had killed someone, you should be killed too. Giving a killer the death sentence will stop them and others from doing it again. The insignificant chances of executing the wrong person is balanced by the benefits to society of putting off other murders. So let's look at the right side. So people make mistakes every single day. We get that. And they should be punished, but the government shouldn't determine that your existence is over. It contradicts to upholding society's values. By conducting the death penalty, it also mimics the crime it condemns. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of a person. No one shall be subjected to torture or cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. So let's look at the comparison though. So it may look cheaper to execute someone, but it's really not. The cost of overtime, for example, lawyers, judges, and other personnel by putting in more hours for the preparation. So I found that Jack Diahora of the Bohal Law Group, writing in the Columbus Dispatch, described the time put into one federal judge, put in by just one federal judge in Ohio, reviewing in a capital case towards the end of its appeal, including the lethal injection process. So he stated that the hearings are attended at a minimum 3 assistant attorney judges, oh my God, I'm so sorry. 3 assistant attorney generals, 3 attorneys for the inmate, the prison warden, the director of the Department of Rehabilitation and Correction Council, and other officials from the department, the judge, and his or her 2 law clerks. So how they're getting paid is by the state or federal government. Hearings can last from a few hours to multiple days. The judge estimated that he and his staff spent about 40 to 60 hours per month on some of the death penalty cases. Diahara also noted that recent cases took on average 21 years between sentencing and execution dates. So the cost likely is millions per case. So the continued comparison is an eye for an eye is what's blinding the world. 2 wrongs really don't make a right. Being on death row is also psychological torture. DNA tests are very reliable, but they can't always prove murder or other crimes. Essentially, it circles back to the government. It's hypocritical for the enforcement of the death penalty. So in conclusion, the death penalty itself is an offensive against humanity. Your tax dollars feed into this absurd judicial system. We, the people, have a lot more power than we think. So that means voting in your local communities can help eliminate capital punishment internally. As I stated previously, the process of capital punishment is long, and therefore the convicted prisoners undergo both physical and mental torture, causing them to beg for death literally. I hope this information presented was beneficial. Now it's up to you. And these are my references. And we're all done. Thank you so much.